Yeah, so since I've spotlit myself, you should be able to speak and it won't come up with your image. Ideally, in a perfect world, it usually works that way. Um, okay. All right. So I started today thinking about how we can resource with the idea of just opening and closing. And I was thinking about the things that can open and close. So like our hands, our mouth, our eyes, and also our body. We can cross over, we can open up. So that was really where I started with my thoughts on this. But there's a breath that's a continuum breath from Emily Conrad that I just want to share with you. It's called the petal breath. But let's take a second and come in for a landing in our own bodies, just arriving and feeling into whatever you feel in your body without any need to change it. So it's like we are receiving our bodies as is in a sort of equanimable, friendly manner. One of my friends says, if you can't be kind, if you can't be loving to your body, to yourself, be kind. If you can't be kind to yourself, at least be civil. But I think we can probably be kind and loving. So let's aim towards that. More than civil. I'm going to sit on my ball just to start. So arriving in and letting your body speak, I suppose, to you within your own system through sensation, through awareness. We're inviting the awareness into sensation, into our bodies, into our being. Maybe slowing down the exhale so we come into a more parasympathetic rest and digest, soothe and settle space. Yeah, and if you need to move at all, feel free to move. You can always also do this laying down in a bed. You could do it in a chair, on a couch, whatever feels comfortable to you. So I'm going to teach you this pedal breath, and it's a sound breath with vocal cords, and it's like a flower that's opening and closing. So in the interest of playing with this idea of opening and closing, I was actually thinking a lot about like the orbital rings. Like we have one around our eyes, we also have one around our mouth. So we have these like orbicular rings that can open and close. So with the pedal breath, we want to think it's almost like I want to say more like a sea creature opening and closing, but it could also be like a flower opening and closing. And the sound is going to just be an ooh sound. And I'm going to show you with my face. And this may look really weird. So I'm going to kind of let my facial pattern free up and, uh, and just embrace all that comes out in the pedal breath. And the idea is that we're letting our nervous system sort of unwind and let go of the holding pattern of Laura as a person and just be an organic creature, an organic living process. So here's the breath. And I'm just letting my face do whatever it wants to do. Sometimes letting go of the pattern of your face takes a long time, and it may not happen today, so that's fine. You can just play with the opening and closing. And it doesn't, I think one way to think of it is that we're not just going open, close, open, close, open, close. We're going, oh, I'm opening like this, and now I'm closing like this, and now I'm opening like this. So you're giving it this really free form, fish, sea anemone possibility of how it wants to move, and just opening up into that. If it feels like too much to add the vocal cord, you could also do this without the vocals and just have a, or if you're somewhere where you can't make a lot of sound, feel free to just do it with the breath. So let's play with that for a few minutes. Any kind of micro movement comes up, allow it to happen. If this breath feels like too much, just come back to regular breathing. You can always do resting breaths. There really isn't a right or wrong about this. It's just play. So take it in as just a playful experience of freeing up your face and letting those orbicular muscles, even around your eyes, have some capacity to move in different ways. So like if you could see my eyebrows, it could be doing like this type of stuff as well. Off we go.
I have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. Was
That's
the
all right.
were you doing only out, like was the noise on both
Yes,
the in breath and out breath?
just on the out breath.
Okay.
Yeah. So almost all of these continuum breaths, it's going to be a natural inhale through your nose, and then the sound happens on the exhale. And the other thing to say is that we're not trying to like extend our exhale until infinity. We're just letting it go for as long as it feels comfortable. Off we go. Could be very big or very small, resting breaths whenever you need them. Allowing your patterning to just play out in any way that feels interesting. It may bring up micro movement in your body, so feel free to allow your body to express in any way that feels good. Let's play with that for a couple more minutes. So as I'm going on, I start to really feel into my sinuses. Like my nose might start to flare and close, and my eyes as well. The invitation is to allow your face to be a non-human face and just let it play out. Let the muscles do whatever they want to do. Let the nervous system twitch, doing whatever it wants to do. And the thing to think about with this opening and closing, and they could be both happening at the same time, like as I'm opening one part and closing another part. So they're probably both happening, but playing with this dance of what's comfortable to open and what feels good to close, or when to open and when to close, or just being in the act of one or the act of the other with your awareness. Let's let that come into a rest and allow your body to play out in any way that it needs to play out. So what I'm noticing for me is as I was going with this, my hands start to do this opening and closing. And I start to become aware of my whole head, occipital joint, just my head on top of the fountain of my nervous system, the fountain of my spinal cord. So I'm just going to give that some chance to play out and free up. It may be very different in your body, allowing your body to respond with any kind of rippling, waves, tentacles, vibrations that feel interesting. And since you're all muted, you can keep playing with the petal breath as long as you want. I'm just going to give myself a few minutes of open movement. And the invitation is that if you find yourself going into a pattern of awareness or a pattern of movement, maybe let go of that a little bit. You can slow something down, change the spatial configuration that you're moving within, so that we're continually kind of navigating into new territory. And as soon as we find ourselves making the plan or the choreographic map, let go of that and go somewhere different. unless it feels really good to go along that map, in which case go for it. So we can also think with this opening and closing that we're allowing our body to tune in towards pleasure. Maybe the opening and closing is just happening with the lungs expanding on the inhale and coming back in on the exhale. So it could be very macro, so it could be very micro, or it could be very macro. Giving yourself permission to move in any ways that feel good, or to even be in stillness, noticing the movement inside your body. There's a whole lot of sound coming in at my house right now, so I'm actually going to mute myself for a little while and just let us be in movement. So we can keep bringing the pedal breath in, that sound, whenever it feels interesting. But I want to throw in one other idea. So that was kind of like the O-rings of our body, these sphincter-like muscles that can open and close in our face, all through our digestive tract, the way that we keep things just going in one direction. But I want to add this idea also of opening and closing with our limbs, that they can open and widen and that they could narrow in, cross midline. And this idea of closing as resource or opening as resource, so that we're finding spaciousness in our open, expansive places, but then also finding, like, as we close in, it's like coming into where our energetic, I don't know, I want to say like our energy is protecting us, like we have like this spiraling around us if we come into these enclosed spaces. And sometimes it feels really good to be in there. You can even think of wrapping your whole self around, curling in either one way or the other. So playing with that idea of opening out and away from center and then coming back in and then closing around center. If we were talking in Laban terms, we might be talking about this growing and shrinking with that. But I want to add that idea of crossing over midline, so that that is like this protective force of coming across, where we're protecting our front body. And we're also letting our energy centers spiral inwards, so they're not just out, but as a means of sort of grounding and drawing ourselves together. So those are the things to play with for this whole exploration, just that pedal breath of opening and closing, and then letting ourselves find ourselves and closing and opening up. And we can stay in for a really long time, or we can open out for a really long time. Just listen into what your body needs right now. And I am going to give us music to play with. If the music is too loud or too soft, feel free to let me know. takes a while to build. This is Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields. is funny because I feel like there isn't an opening and closing so much in a spiral. So just inviting in, if that feels interesting to play with, this spiral energy into your awareness of opening and closing. How does that play out? If it's interesting, you can also not invite that in. You can stay where you are with what you're exploring. Take that another step deeper. How does water open and close, right? How does our body of water open and close? You can leave the dishes. I can just do them later. I know. Or not. My mom's in there. She's been cooking all day for something tomorrow. just going to bring that music down to a close, but feel free to continue your exploration with all the sounds of life that are around you. Letting yourself wind into stillness or unwind into stillness, having a few breaths or a few moments of just open awareness, just to hang out and let your body process whatever whatever journey you've been on for the past half hour. And letting us come back together. If you need to just stay in your process, feel free to blink out. Oops. Buttons, buttons, buttons. Hello, Patricia. I see you popped in.